This summer, Instacart presents famous summer flavors coming to your front door. Or pool. Or hotel.
Your grocery delivery has arrived, sir.
That was faster than room service.
No violins in the lobby.
Oh, seriously? Anyway, sit back, relax, and get delivery in as fast as 30 minutes. Starring your favorite snacks, drinks, and more. Download Instacart for free delivery on your first 3 orders. Rated H for hungry audiences. Offer valid for a limited time. Minimum $10 per order. Excludes restaurants. Additional terms and fees apply.
We acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Welcome to This Song Is Yours, a music podcast where we chat to a new guest each week, talk about their life and creative endeavours, and talk to them about some of the music they love. Our show works by chatting to our guests about music, but also getting them to make you a playlist of the songs they love. You can find the link to our playlist in the show notes. Welcome to episode 83. I'm your host, Simon Fink. Our guest today is Drapht. The Australian hip-hop legend is releasing his 7th studio record today, entitled Shadows and Shinings. In today's episode, we're talking with Drapht about how fatherhood has changed his music, writing songs across multiple years, and mental health within the music industry. Here we go. Our guest today is a pioneer in the Australian hip-hop music scene. Hailing from Western Australia, he's releasing his 7th studio record today, which is entitled Shadows and Shinings. Please welcome to This Song Is Yours, Paul Reed, aka Drapht. Hello.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for coming on. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm really good. Yeah, I've had a crazy 15 years. I was going to say I've had a few crazy few months, but it's never ending, which is awesome. It's kind of the way that I love it as well. But I think, you know, in the space of COVID and affecting sort of touring plans and whatnot, it can be a bit sticky at the moment. So we just need to take it week by week and not plan too ahead.
That's very fair. I think you have kind of been, just to touch on what you just said or referred to, you have been like a staple of the music scene in Australia and the hip hop scene in Australia for the last 15 years. What, I guess, are your thoughts on the current state of the industry and in terms of not being able to play shows and having to adapt as an artist?
It's brutal. It's absolutely brutal, more so for, you know, young kids coming up and, you know, creating an album and then not being able to do anything with the record, especially, you know, young artists in Sydney and Victoria and a lot of the eastern states where it's, you know, they can't go out and play shows like we have been to build a career off the back of for the last 15, 20 years. So it's a testing time for everyone. I think I'm one of the fortunate ones being over in WA, and we do have options here, and we have had options for the last 12 months. And, you know, a lot of the time that COVID was initially like affecting our industry, I was busy writing a record. So the silver lining of that was I just had a change of pace and I could concentrate on the music first and foremost. And it's only now just starting to affect in our plans in terms of touring and stuff. So yeah, I've been incredibly fortunate with the last sort of year and a half in mind, but I know a lot of people aren't as lucky as I am.
We've spoken to a few guests from WA, like the Sly Withers guys, Joel from Eskimo Joe, Dulcie, who, yeah, they've all kind of mentioned that WA almost like relatively has been COVID-free, and you guys have had like a bit more freedom, I think, than anyone else in terms of shows and gigs and things like that.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I think we've only had 3 or 4 snap lockdowns, and because our Premier is such a cowboy and sort of keeps everyone into gear super fast, like I would leave the studio and I'd go get petrol and everyone's wearing a mask. And I'm like, there must have been like another case has popped up. and that's how quickly Perth sort of reacts to the news. You know, before I know in terms of hearing it on the news, I can see it on the street. So, and I think that's amazing. Like, I know in Sydney, I've got a bunch of friends over there that are doing the right things to try to get it under control, but then they'll go for a run and no one's wearing masks, and it blows my mind coming from a place that, like, I'll leave the house and everyone's got a mask on before I even read or hear it in the news, you know. So, but again, like, the population is vastly different between Perth and Sydney, so there's a lot more fish in the sea over there, and it's harder to manage a situation like that over there as well. So, you know, we have been incredibly fortunate, and it's like the isolation is finally starting to work in our favour. So, yeah, it's great that I've still got options, or WA Acts still have options to be able to play 14-odd shows around the state and make money when, you know, so many people are just so wounded in terms of the touring scene over east. So, yeah, it's a real shitty position, and government surely aren't helping the situation either.
No, they're not. But we won't touch on that too much. That isn't why we're here today.
No, all positive things.
We are here to talk about your new record, Shadows and Shinings, which is the first record in, I think, about 3 to 4 years, if I'm correct. I think the last one was 2018.
Yes, it was. You know, life kind of makes these albums a bit trickier. I've had a daughter who is 3 in December. So all my free time is kind of has to be used wisely these days. But yeah, I am extremely proud of this record, and it's a big family affair, and I'm working with a lot of people that are very dear to me, and yeah, I love where it's finished off, and I'm stoked to have released it today, and yeah, allow other people to hear it too.
Of course. A few years ago, I think you took a bit of a break from music, and you went into the restaurant business, and I know that you've obviously come back to releasing more music since. With this record, obviously having a child is a huge project, for lack of a better term. Yeah. Did you find yourself kind of having them vastly separate, or was it something that you kind of found inspiration in becoming a father and taking on that kind of new role?
I definitely found inspiration more so after becoming a father, and, you know, you're no longer the most important person in the world, and puts everything into perspective, and it takes a lot of the pressure away that you put on yourself as well within the process of creating and releasing, because it just doesn't matter as much anymore. Having my daughter around, I have, you know, my free time, the stuff that I used to enjoy the most was creating music. I used to just love getting into the studio, and I would lose weeks just creating music, but it's also not very good just being stuck in a room by yourself for that long period of time. So, yeah, when my daughter came along, we would go on adventures every other day, and I just love hanging out with her, and I love, like, the little, you know, childish, energetic fun that we can have, like, from hanging out together, and it just takes all the seriousness away from, like, creating these big bodies of work, you know, and it just turns into a hobby again, because now she's my first and foremost, and she comes before all this stuff now. So yeah, it's amazing, and I wouldn't change it for the world. And I'm in such a good place musically because of her as well.
Does she understand, as much as a 2-year-old can, like, grasp the concept of, I guess, what it is that Dad does, or has it shows any kind of...
You know what? If I pick the guitar up or if I sing, she's like, stop singing. I'm saying, Gorge, like, people pay me to hear me sing. She's like, no singing, only mummy sings. So she has no grasp on what I do, and I think that's amazing as well. It's very humbling having a 2-3-year-old around the house telling you what you can and cannot do.
I was going to say that would definitely be a humbling kind of moment where it brings you back down 1 or 2 pegs a little.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, say if I'm listening to mixes or the masters of a record, she'll be like, turn it off, put like Dance Monkey on or something like that. The amount of times I had to listen to bloody Dance Monkey or Bluey or The Wiggles or Coco Melon, is like, oh, I know these songs better than I know my own now. So, yeah, it's great.
I wasn't planning on asking this, but could we possibly see a shift from Drapht into kids' music, a kids' album by Drapht, which I don't know whether that would work.
You never say never. From what I understand, that's where the money's at. Like,
true.
Yeah, if you want to print some money, but there's like a certain formula to those kids' records because it's a flooded market as well. People want to get into that market and try, but there's only a select few that have this like energetic signature that kids gravitate to. And that's amazing. Like, that's something that I've thought about for sure. But whether I could make it a successful career of mine, I don't know.
We'll keep an eye. We'll focus on this record. We'll keep an eye out for that one.
Yeah.
The title, I'm very curious where that kind of came from, because it is slightly ominous, or it is quite open to interpretation, which might have been the idea. But I'm curious, where the title came from.
Every record that I release is first and foremost like very introspective and revolves around the venting outlet that my music is. So it's very insular, and I use my music as a vessel to release what I'm going through, or any trauma or past experiences that have affected me. And, it's part of my natural evolution as a human, but I guess it focuses more so on the shadows that we carry. And I always believe that as soon as you're aware of a particular shadow that you carry, or something that's holding you back, or maybe like a particular personality trait that doesn't serve you, as soon as you focus on it and shed light on that shadow, it dissolves. So that's where the subject matter of the record kind of came about, and like having songs like Better Alone, or Shadows on My Walls, or Release Me, and a bunch of the topics revolve around, or even Problem Here, like stuff that I've overcome within the last 2 years. And a lot of people approach me and say, are you okay? Because there's dark stuff on this record. I'm like, yeah, I wrote that 1.5 years ago. I had like a tough week, but this is the way that I get over those tough weeks, So yeah, I think like first and foremost, it's about vulnerability and me being vulnerable on these songs. And hopefully that's a piece of the puzzle that sort of draws people in to listen to my music and associate that like they're not the only ones going through these like having to overcome these hurdles as well within life. And I think so many people in the music industry will only share a certain amount, and there's this certain facade that's from an outsider looking in is like perfect, but it's just not the case. We as artists and people within the spotlight probably deal with more of these day-to-day issues, and I think it's really important to be able to share that as well.
I think that especially with yourself, because you've always been throughout the 15, 20 years that you've been doing Drapht as your musical outlet. I feel that there's always been a connection to fans, and it's what has really resonated with people. This album, but previous albums as well, is that you do kind of, not to steal your phrase, but shine a light, on some of those topics that maybe are a little bit more difficult. I know that lately that has become quite a bigger focus in the industry, but I feel like it's been a continuous thing for yourself. And it's why you do resonate with fans. I know when I mentioned it to my little brother, who's a massive Drapht fan, he was quite excited that you were coming on the podcast. But I guess for you, how important has it been throughout that time to be honest and, really have, I guess, show those true emotions and feelings and put yourself in quite a vulnerable space, really?
Yeah, I think
this season, Instacart has your back to school. As in, they've got your back to school lunch favorites like snack packs and fresh fruit. And they've got your back to school supplies like backpacks, binders, and pencils. And they've got your back when your kid casually tells you they have a huge school project due tomorrow. Let's face it, we were all that kid. So first, call your parents to say I'm sorry, and then download the Instacart app to get delivery in as fast as 30 minutes all school year long. Get a $0 delivery fee with your first 3 orders while supplies last. Minimum $10 an order. Additional terms apply.
Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds. At Mint Mobile, we like to do the opposite of what Big Wireless does. They charge you a lot, we charge you a little. So naturally, when they announced they'd be raising their prices due to inflation, we decided to deflate our prices due to not hating you. That's right. We're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
It's incredibly integral for who I am as an artist, and for me to continuously release music from this point onwards, because it's not just about releasing music for people to consume for me. It's about the therapy side of, overcoming a situation and turning a negative into a positive. And it's always been a hobby first and foremost for me, and a creative outlet and a venting process for me first and foremost before the listener comes into the picture. So, I've always really prided myself on my vulnerability and being able to share, because I know it helps me overcome those issues first and foremost. But I know people relate to authenticity and vulnerability and honesty more so than like a massive pop song that's got from an outsider's perspective, legs on it, from a label's perspective, sorry. I believe in the body of work and something that tells an honest story over just one big pop song that has, a year's life. So, with that in mind, and as a whole, honesty, vulnerability, and authenticity is the cornerstone to how I write and release music, and will continue to be for years to come, and that's why I can sit here now and say, I've just finished this album, it's just released, and I'm so ready to jump in and continue to write. I'm so inspired at the moment because of that. And also because I'm working with the people that are the closest to me. And this album is about having all my friends involved that I've worked with over the last 15 years, and keeping it within the family and pushing forward with the right people, and not just having, some dude from the States that I've never met before on a song because I know it will sell. For me, it's the personability behind the whole story and the energy of the whole song and the people that I have involved within this project that means more to me, and the legacy behind my body of work to look back and say, after music, I'm still friends with these people, So I don't know, it's way more personal for me, the process from start to finish, then people truly do understand, I think.
Is that why some of the collaborators that we see on your records are frequent collaborators, I guess, and the fact that they come back because you guys are actually mates and have that actual relationship instead of just a, as you said, fly in, fly out verse on a chorus or whatever?
That's the only reason why. That's the only reason why, like, I made a conscious decision with this record to only work with people that I know I can have a beer with and I can speak my truth with and I can be truly vulnerable with, and they're not going to judge me. And, I just want to create with good people. And money aside, like career aside, I want to finish an album and I want to be proud of that record. And I also want to be able to listen to that record in 10 years' time and say, yeah, like they're the people that represent who I am as well. So this album through and through is a family affair. Like the last song, Release Me, with Daz, Layla and Hunter, I've been making music with that crew, the Syllabolics crew, for the last 20 years. And my first 3 verses that I ever wrote was on a record called Dundiel, and it was a Hunter and Disaster record. And the 4 of us, Layla, myself, Daz and Hunter, we were on 4 of the songs together like 20 years ago. So that was the reason why I bookended the album with that particular song, because that was the start. And I really feel like this is an integral record, being 20 years in the music industry, that it was amazing to finish this album with a song like Release Me that sort of embodies where I started from.
Definitely. I know some of the songs on the record, some were from like the last year and around the time of the pandemic, and then there are some that you've been working on or had ideas from 8 or 9 years ago, I guess. When you are revisiting songs like that or working on songs like that, how do you determine what still has that initial like buzz about it, or that it's still worth like revisiting and building upon?
In a perfect world, I would release everything that I've written. Anything that I have given energy to, I believe deserves to see the light of day. So, but in the same breath, a song always tells me when it's finished, and I don't personally dictate like, okay, this song, like within a day is done. Like if a song's not done for me, I'll flip the idea, up to 15 times if I need to get it to a place where it says, yeah, I'm done. Like, and I'll kill myself until that song's done. And the beauty about this record, I guess, I have had stagnant ideas that weren't quite there yet, that I'd been working on for 10 years, that had never found a home within albums that I'd released previously. So I've got like, with that in mind, like having, from my perspective, like wanting to give everything the time of day and release everything, I've got this like 50 clouds following me every day that I need to finish, So the beauty of this album was like, after I had finalised everything, I had no other demos that I wanted to get out. So it was a clean slate, and it felt amazing finally putting to bed the last 10 years of my life and finding homes for everything. And, there's a track on the record, Model Plane, with 2 friends of mine, Bitter Belief and Complete. And that chorus was just off the back of 2011 Life of Riley, and has only just made it onto this record. So some of these ideas just keep floating around until they find the right home. So, yeah.
I think I read somewhere that you said this album almost feels and I'll probably misquote this, so I apologize in advance, but that it almost feels like a successor to that album, to The Life of Riley, or that it feels like it could slot in in like chronological order to go after that album?
Yeah, that's more from like a passion perspective. I think like that record, The Life of Riley, for me was such a tough one because, you know, from an outsider's perspective, it was deemed as my, you know, well, it was my most successful 2 years within the industry. I'd been working up to that particular point and had so much pressure around me, and I had new management, and I was sort of just saying yes to everything and working myself into the ground. And then by the end of that record cycle, I was just fucking miserable. And I thought to myself, like, you know, I dreamed of being in this exact position for the last 10 years. And now I'm here and I am the most miserable that I've been for my entire life. Like, what the fuck is going on here? And so yeah, I had to take time away because I'm not one of those people that will just write music for the sake of writing music. Like I need to feel like it's coming from the right place. So I felt like I had to take a step away from music and a step away from releasing it in the way that I was. So I stepped away, opened a restaurant in Perth, had the restaurant for 4 years, took sort of the pressure away from the music, and I was just writing for fun more so. And then I, you know, off the back of that, I was like, I had this record, and hospitality was a real hard industry. I was working like 18-hour days, like on the floor, managing the kitchen, working on the kitchen pass, like putting menus together. I was like, fuck, give me my music back. Like, and then I felt like I was in a space to release again. Like I'd learned a lot over those 4 years within, you know, running another business and you know, taking a step back and changing the pace of me releasing music and removing that pressure. Got a bit of clarity with that. So I released 7 Mirrors and sort of toured off that. And I was in a good spot, but I worked with an executive producer and I didn't really have the confidence to be able to like put another one of my records together. And I felt like I had to go elsewhere to get that like confidence, you know, back where it needed to be for me to start releasing again. And I literally in the space of the last year and a half, 2 years, I've only just refound that. So that's what I mean about like, I feel like this record should be slotted in after The Life of Riley because I've only just found my passion again. Like, and that was 10 years ago, you know. And so the music industry is an amazing place for people that are successful, but it can also be a very detrimental space if you're not mentally strong and you don't have the tools to be able to push through the roadblocks. And I don't think there's enough, you know, a lot of the labels and management, they will work you into the ground if you allow them to work you into the ground because, you know, us as artists, we have a dream and like these people are like saying, okay, this is the way, like, you know, we're giving you an opportunity to be able to step up here, but they don't give you the tools to be able to keep your mental health intact. And that's the biggest issue with our industry. It's like they'll easily work you into the ground, but they won't help you when you're, you know, 6 feet under.
Yeah. Yeah. Who was it recently? I think it was, I'm probably getting this wrong. I think it was Iggy Azalea of all people who
Awesome.
flagged that sport, like these days, sports teams have psychologists who are paid for by the teams to look after their athletes. So why isn't it the same for like a label to have a similar thing for its artists?
Yeah. I definitely feel like, you know, well, there needs to be a more nourishing approach to management as well, because they're the people that you are meant to rely on to be able to guide you through, because they're the people that have been in the industry much longer than you. So, to be able to, I don't know, like work around all the label business and whatnot, like it should be management's role to be able to say, no, I think you've toured too much, or I think, you should have a day here where you're away from emails and you're away from doing all the press that you've been doing. And, it's really important for you to take some time for yourself now, and turn your phone off and stay off social media, because social media is only adding to all those pressures that an artist has to deal with. And, if you've got a day off, this is not helping you. No, it's actually doing the opposite, So, yeah, there needs to be people in the industry, that can advise these younger artists, to not go down the same path that we have. And, a lot of people that I know that are at the top of the game feel the exact same way. If you're not mentally strong, you just get eaten up, and no one's, and then it's on to the next person, because everyone wants a career.
Exactly. It's a thing. I think that the music industry as a whole, but the Australian one especially, it's starting to work out where there are cracks and where work needs to be done. But I think we're still a little bit of a way off until it's going to be as supportive as it needs to be.
For sure. Definitely. I wholeheartedly agree.
Paul, thank you very much for being on the podcast today. I do appreciate it. And congratulations again on Shadows and Shinings, which is out today.
Thanks so much for having me on, man. Yeah, it's been my absolute pleasure.
And that's our show. A massive thank you to Drapht for his time. Shadows and Shinings is out now, and we have links in the show notes if you'd like to buy and stream the record. We also want to give a huge shout out to Jack at On The Map PR for helping out with today's interview. You can find a link to our Spotify playlist in the show notes, where you'll be able to listen to all of our guests' picks. If you like this show, please subscribe wherever you get your pods and stay up to date when new episodes are released. We release new shows each Thursday and Friday morning, with guest playlists streaming on Spotify at the same time. You can follow the playlist profile on Spotify. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Until next week, cheers.